Hi guys, welcome to the OCD Recovery channel. I am Momin, and today I am here with my plants again, and just thought I would add this as a regular feature to my backgrounds. Um, I hope you've been doing well. I've been meaning to do a video for a week or so, but sometimes you have to really get into the flow of doing a video. And plus, I've been doing videos, those video chats with Nick and Jade and Alexander. So if you haven't checked out our video chats, they have been uploaded on the channel. So please do check those out. I think they really do like help bring some more life to conversations and discussions about OCD and anxiety, and let us know what you think about that. So that was a little promo for those videos. But before we move on to the content in this video, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and yeah, leave some comments and let me know if this video helps you, or if you want to know more about this topic from me. I'm more than happy to talk about it. My camera is tilted this way. I don't know if I should look that way to directly to you guys, but I don't know. I mean, I'm just going to shift my eyes a little bit here and there, just not used to looking directly in the camera or so. But I mean, I'm going to try. Anyway, so Rob suggested I do a video on how rational thinking and acceptance help me with recovery, but also like generally in life. And I thought that was an interesting topic for someone like me to cover, because I was your quintessential emotional person. And in some ways, I mean, I still am like that person, but in a different kind of way. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So I think up till my early 20s, I've always thought of myself as an emotional guy, because I always used to put my emotions and my feelings on my sleeve. I always used to talk about them. I always used to discuss them. I always used to express them. Even if I had a crush on someone or something like that, I would always say that. Even, I mean, it would be very nerve wracking, but I would be like, hey, I mean, what's the harm in like saying it and trying my luck. Um, and especially, so I'm the youngest in my house. I have two older brothers, and I went to from grade 4 onwards. I was in an all boys school. That's how it happens here in Pakistan, if you're not aware. Beyond like a certain class, or even sometimes since the very beginning as well, there are all girls school and all boys school. So I went to an all boys school. So especially when you are in a sea of a lot of men and boys, you do stand out as odd sometimes, because I mean, I wasn't like a guy. I was never into like, you know, cars or watches or, um, you know, action movies or whatever else my friends used to be into, and like other people in school used to be into. Yeah, so it was, and obviously there was that stereotype of, oh, men don't talk about their feelings, men don't talk about their emotions, and I was fortunate to have friends around me who, I mean, uh, did do that. So I had that space with them to be more expressive. But generally speaking, I would be, I would be seen as like the more emotional slash sensitive person, because I mean, I talked about my thoughts and my feelings, and for me it was never about, oh, I need to give into it or I must give into it, but it was just like a natural part of my personality to want to, just express different ideas or different feelings about things, or be vocal about certain things. And it was never really an issue per se. But and I did give into a lot of emotional urges quite a bit. So for example, if it was like blurting out if I had a crush on someone, or if I had to blurt out something like offensive somebody did in a polite way, not in a rude way, I would point that out, that I mean, that's not good, that's not great, that's not nice. Or in fact, giving into those emotional urges, and by emotional urges I mean like, when you are really feeling something and you really want to do that, but you're like, should I say that or should I do that? And so in that sense, I was quite like a eccentric, wild, crazy kind of person a little bit. Saying controversial things sometimes, saying risque things sometimes, saying things that were just a bit like, I mean, should he have said that? Should he have um, asked that question? Things like that. Um, and especially in front of adults, it would be a bit of an issue sometimes, because with your friends you can still get away with a lot, but sometimes I would I would have this crazy streak in me and I would just be very excited about something, and I would say or do things in front of like adults as well, so, and that would be seen as inappropriate sometimes, or just like not the most well behaved thing to do. So I don't know. So in that sense, like, I was always just a very spontaneous, emotional person. And obviously, I mean, even up till my early 20s, I had ups and downs with OCD, but I didn't know it was OCD or anxiety. So I do now, looking back now, I believe that there was some sense of internal anxiety that I had with myself, that was coming out in very like edgy, eccentric ways that way, where I was having these emotional bursts of like expression here and there as well. Um, so it was, I think, in some ways linked to like internal anxiety in some ways. But at the time, obviously, I had a lot of anxious energy for sure. But obviously at the time I didn't realize that at all. I didn't even know I had OCD. I didn't even know I had anxiety. So, and like I said, I mean, OCD had its ups and downs. There were years where it kind of disappeared in some sense, but then there would be times where it would just really show up in very strong ways. And I think the most trouble I had navigating emotions or regulating or balancing my emotions were in my late teens, especially when my emotions were like all over the place. And they really came out with what I now recognize as ROCD with my friends at the time. So I had a lot of those issues going on where I would really want their validation and approval, and anything I ever did that might have hurt them or their dislike, it would make me very anxious and so deeply guilty and shameful and embarrassed. Um, so it would just be like, I mean, I didn't know at the time how to obviously deal with that. So there were obviously there were challenges of living just by my emotions as well. But then there were some really thrilling moments as well, like having really boosts of confidence when you express your feelings for someone, even if they don't like you back, you would still like, express it and doing stuff like that. And I was never like really ashamed of expressing my feelings in that sense. And I don't think, even now, having all the awareness that I have, I mean, for the most part, I don't think it was even I didn't do it in any compulsive way, talking about my thoughts and my feelings. At least up till that point, I hadn't done it in a compulsive way. But it did become compulsive, very compulsive, in fact. Like in my early 20s, it started, um, especially when I went to college, when my just anxiety blew up in that sense. And so wait, I just lost my train of thought. What was I saying? I didn't do it in a compulsive way. So when I went to college, I think, and my anxiety really blew up. I had no idea what was happening and why it was happening. There were a lot of mental compulsions as well. So that's when it became compulsive to constantly talk about my emotions and behave according to my emotions, because I started therapy in 2015. And I think with therapy and just looking at online mental health discussions and stuff like that, there was obviously a lot of talk about listening to your emotions, living by your emotions, living by your feelings, living by your gut instincts, living by your sixth sense, maybe, or um, living with your emotions on your sleeve. with your heart on your sleeve, living and just listening to your body, because that was also linked to listening to your emotions. So if your body is telling you to do something or not do something, you shouldn't do it, because that's linked to your inner emotional network in a way. So obviously, the more I read that and the more I went into psychoanalysis of myself and life at large, the more I got into this compulsive cycle of listening to my emotions and analyzing my emotions constantly. I promise I'm getting to the part about rational living as well. But I just want to explain you the background and the journey in detail about who I used to be as a person and who I am now, because I think that contrast is really important to understand. Because if I just start to talk about, oh, this is how rational living has helped me or acceptance has helped me, it would seem like, oh, it happened very quickly overnight. And I mean, you don't have that kind of comparison of the before and after. So that's why I really wanted to go into that part. So anyway, and with that would also that analyzing my emotions, that became compulsive checking, because I always wanted to be aware of my emotions. I always wanted to know where they were coming from, why they were in me, what they were linked to in the past. Is it linked to trauma? Is it linked to that distressful event I had? Is it linked to my inner child? Or, I mean, I would always just try to figure out my emotions, because I thought that um, my emotions, in some ways, I did think they could be controlled. In a sense, I did think they could be controlled, but then I think I also thought that my emotions could be in some ways manipulated, in the sense that if I'm having really depressive feelings, then maybe I can manipulate my emotions to not feel it. Or if I find out a psychoanalytical causation of my depressive feelings, then it might go away. So in that sense, I thought they could be like manipulated in a way, or that again, like I could have control over them, or even if in moments I don't have control over them, I can at least be like very alert and aware of them, so that they don't intrude my life and they don't destroy my life. That's the kind of emotional certainty I try to have with my emotions. um so what started to happen though at some point, even before like I started taking sessions from OCD recovery, or I got in touch with Rob, even way before that, I had started to come to the gradual realization that, this thing that I had really, valued about myself, that, oh, I'm an emotional person, I always speak from the heart, I always talk from my emotions, I always talk about my emotions, I always discuss them and analyze them. I mean, maybe it served me up till a certain point in time, but I don't see this serving me now at all. I don't see this helping me in any way. In fact, I started to recognize how in this downward spiral, like not in a completely losing yourself and your control way, but generally like trying going down this rabbit hole, of emotions and analysis I was going in, and I realized it wasn't working for me anymore. In fact, it was making me even more just miserable, and I just at some point I just kind of got sick of my emotions as well, because I thought like, what am I even doing? I became so moody as a person. I would not go out with friends because I'm just not in the mood, and I ended up offending them quite a bit as well. I ended up drawing a lot of big boundaries with family and friends and loved ones. I I did everything by my emotions. I ate based on my mood. I went out or didn't go out based on my mood. I watched something based on my mood. I listened to music based on my mood. And obviously, I mean, with that, I started to wait for the perfect emotional state to do all those things, which never came because I was internally suffering with OCD so much. So I started to lose touch with all those things, and I started to lose touch with my emotions, and I became emotionally numb as well. So but so that's where I started to realize that this this constant analysis of emotions and trying to live by my emotions and trying to figure out my emotions was not working for me. So I had to change gears, because clearly listening to my emotions is not getting me anywhere. It's not really helping me make progress. I'm not doing things I'm passionate about in life. I don't see myself fulfilling any dreams or anything. So what do I do? And I didn't have an answer for a long time, um, until I started to look for some kind of like solution to OCD, because I thought, you know what, I've ignored this for a while. I thought the answer would be in analyzing my past trauma, but I mean, obviously, I've done that for so many years, so clearly that isn't working. So, let's look at OCD separately as a disorder and see where that takes me. So, eventually, long story short, basically I found Rob's page and I started to follow his posts, and I learned about acceptance and rational thinking, and how we can embody that and practice that. And I really do think that, I mean, so The Myth of Self-Esteem by Albert Ellis was the first book from the reading list that I got my hands on, because that was the only one available. So I started reading that, and I think it didn't take me a long time to grapple, or grasp those concepts that he talks about unconditional acceptance, because like I said, I had already started to lean towards, some ways of acceptance, or some ways of thinking that are like, are rational thinking. And so I began to, because I had lived my entire life emotionally, I think what that book, I mean, the concept of unconditional acceptance and embracing uncertainty, and disputing your irrational beliefs and your fears, I think what that really helped me do was balance out this severe focus on emotions and balance it out with action and practicality. So what I mean by that is a small example, like going out with your friends, even if you don't feel like it. So far I had been doing that based on my mood, but clearly that wasn't making me happy. Even if I had said no all the times that I wanted to say no, it still didn't make me happy. I was still suffering and miserable. So I started to reintroduce that a bit. I was like, okay, I don't have to listen to my emotions all the time. Let's try to approach it differently. Let's go out with my friends, even if I don't feel like it. Even if I feel like I want to be in my room. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to socialize. I feel anxious. I don't feel emotionally great. Let's go out. Let's meet friends. Let's socialize. Let's have discussions. Let's try to have fun. Let's do the activities that they're doing, whether it's like playing a card game or going for paintball or playing video games together, whatever it was. Let's do that with them. Um, then it was about, okay, I mean, so far I've been like, oh, I'm not in the mood to read a book, or that I'm too exhausted that I don't want to read a book. Um, let's pick up a book and read it, even if I feel like I can't focus, even if I feel like I won't enjoy it, even if I feel like the emotion of happiness of reading that chapter won't be there. Let's do it anyway. And that's the approach that I read like all the books on the reading list as well. And I mean, if I hadn't done that, if hadn't taken that chance or given myself that opportunity, I mean, I wouldn't have that understanding now. So with, and I think the biggest way that adding that practical approach or balancing out my emotions with that practical approach was with exposures, because so far I had been listening to my body that, oh, don't touch that, don't do that, this is triggering, that's a trigger, go away from that because that's a trigger, this thing is not great for my mental health because it's triggering me. No, for me, as an OCD sufferer, the answer wasn't going towards triggers. The answer was facing my fears. The answer was facing the uncomfortable, the physically exhausting, the mentally exhausting. I had to go towards those things. And so, because I had to get my life back. I had to live more practically, more rationally, with a greater amount of acceptance of my worst case scenario. So if I touch this, not only is it helping me, I mean, it, first of all, it's completely it makes me feel like shit because I've not touched this certain object for a while. So if I'm touching this, if I'm doing this exposure, then I mean I'm doing something that I have avoided for so many years. So obviously it feels like absolute shit. And sorry for my language, but what it's helping me do is it's helping me live my life more functionally. It's helping me live my life more structurally. Number three, it's helping me live more normally, like everybody else does around me. Number four, it's adding more movement. Number five, it's helping me break the fear cycle. Number six, because of that, it's helping me see that fear is an illusion. Number seven, it's helping me embrace uncertainty. Because even after doing those exposures, I didn't have any. I mean, my fear was that my life will be destroyed. So after doing those exposures, I did not have any certainty that my life will not be destroyed. And I mean, since doing those exposures, I mean, obviously, I still my life I don't think has been destroyed as of yet. But obviously, there is that uncertainty of what if my life does get destroyed in some way tomorrow. But the fact is that yes, that uncertainty exists, and that obviously would suck if that happens. However, I'm not trying to control that uncertainty or that lack of certainty through compulsions anymore. Because rationally, I see that, okay, I mean, even if my worst case scenario were to come true, even if I were to lose all my friends, all my family, my job, everything good in my life, even if I lose all of that, um, I can find a way to adapt to that, and nothing in my life is worth being so scared of that I'm standing on the sink washing my hands 100 times a day, not spending time with my family, not spending time with my friends, not touching a single object in the house, constantly wearing shoes in the house and not being bare feet. I mean, it's not worth that. It's not worth making myself that miserable that I don't like, that I completely put my life on hold and I suck the joy out of my own life. Um, so my fear, I mean, I honestly started to see that even before doing exposures, I saw that I understood logically, was aware of the fact that living life in that uncertainty is way better than my OCD suffering. Um, because uncertainty exists anyway. I mean, no amount of trying to chase certainty with compulsions really helped ever. I mean, if it did, obviously, I mean, I wouldn't be making this video right now. Um, so, so for me, embracing that uncertainty of life going to complete shit was a big part of it, and that was with rational thinking because that could happen anyway. My life was already shit when I was suffering with OCD, so why not like change that? I mean, I can at least take one shit thing out, which is OCD, in the sense of not getting rid of it from my system, but recovering from it. Like Rob has done videos on what recovery means, so you could watch that and see what I mean by that. Um, so I could at least do something about my suffering, but I cannot do something about the uncertainty that exists in life. And that's something that I mean, it's not just an epiphany that came to me overnight. It's something that came to me through slow and steady developing a great understanding of how OCD works, how the fear cycle works, also understanding from an emotional point of view, like from trying to analyze my emotions. What I learned through that process was that I cannot control my emotions and I cannot control my brain and my body like I think I can. I can maybe influence it to a certain extent, but some days it will feel like shit because it just wants to. Like my brain cannot keep whatever chemicals make me happy. It cannot keep those chemicals, those hormones, those enzymes in my body at the same constant level every single second of every single day of every single year of my entire life. That's just not biologically realistic. And it has to go down, up and down at some point. So I had to let go of that control over my body in that sense, and my brain, my nerves, my emotions, and just let them be and let the uncertainty of why it was happening, where it was coming from, what will it lead me to. I wholeheartedly embrace that uncertainty, and that I did through number one, life acceptance, that whatever comes in life, there are no guarantees of what might happen tomorrow. Even if I'm able to, let's say, 100% control everything about my own life, I live with my family. I have like a very close family. I have very close friends. Something can happen, bad can happen in their life, and therefore, um, something bad happening in their life can affect me. A friend can pass away tomorrow. A really good friend can pass away tomorrow, and that will really affect me. So ultimately, I don't have control over the things that I am trying to control. So having I really humbled myself with realizing and realizing that I cannot control things, and then therefore letting go of that control. Embracing that uncertainty, accepting myself. That was a huge part of it, because my self esteem was very up and down. Like, there were parts of myself that I was great, even the flawed parts of myself that I was very wholeheartedly I accepted and embraced. But then there were tiny parts of me which were linked to OCD, obviously, where I had chronic guilt and shame about myself as a person. So, and I think when I worked on disputing that, and when I started to change my perspective on myself and the things I was holding myself guilty for, that also started to automatically change my behaviors as well. So, for example, I mean, I used a lot of reassurance to combat that chronic guilt and shame that I had. Um, but when I reached, or when I like basically started to embody unconditional acceptance more and more, unconditional self acceptance, and I stopped doing compulsions and I stopped doing reassurance to give myself that space and opportunity to slowly come into that position of really embodying unconditional self acceptance. That changed my behaviors in the sense that I stopped doing, I mean, I automatically, that urge to do compulsions stopped. I stopped looking for that external kind of dire validation that I needed. I stopped looking for that dire kind of attention that I needed. I stopped looking for that dire nice treatment, that respect and love that I always thought I needed externally from the environment constantly. Those stopped. So I mean, I stopped looking for those, because I mean, I started to, and therefore, I mean, that extends into unconditional other acceptance, which is recognizing people just as people and humans, just like myself. They are as complex as I am, perhaps. They have their own choices. They have their own feelings. They have their own perspectives. Someone may or may not like me, and I cannot control that. And in fact, even they cannot control that. Sometimes they just, I mean, people just don't like or like some things, and that's something that they cannot curate or manipulate in that sense. um, I can try again. I can try to influence their opinion of me, but I mean, ultimately, it's just up to them what they want to do. And so, and therefore, that kind of, again, control and certainty that I want to exert on their opinions of me, or what they thought of me or felt about me, um, that that really started to inform how I navigated my dynamics, because I stopped doing things to get their validation or check their validation and love for me. Secondly, I started to, I think, just respect them more as people. Number three, there started to be less tension between me and them in our dynamic, and therefore it made space for more healthier conversations and discussions with them, because I was no longer approaching my human interactions with this rigidity, with this instant judgment of, oh, you are the absolute shit person, absolute shittest person that I've ever met, or that I am the shittest person that I've ever met, or you've done the shittiest thing that you could have ever done. I mean, I stopped having those kind of extreme, rigid judgments and opinions and beliefs about myself, other people, and then therefore life at large. I started, like I said, I think the thing that it really helped me with rational thinking and acceptance was to balance out the heightened extreme emotion and anxiety with a more logical, rational, practical approach, um, which has really helped me regulate. Like I said, it has really helped me regulate um, and navigate complicated emotions. There have been people in my life who I love and hate both. Human relationships are complicated, so I really admire them, but there's a part of me that just really dislikes them as well. And so the coexistence of that complexity is not something that I want to have that I want to have certainty over, because I know I can't have certainty over that, because I mean, uh, conflicting emotions can exist at the same time. So in that sense, I mean, it has rational thinking and acceptance has helped me pursue my passions, my goals, my dreams, my values, which is even something like being there for a friend. I might not be in the mood to go out, and I might not be in the mood to socialize or meet people or discuss, because I just want to be by myself. However, um, and that's an emotional need, I would say. But then the practical and more like rational side is that I it would be good to be there for my friend and help them out and listen to them, or give them advice, or give them like a shoulder to lean on, or whatever it is, to be there to support them, because that's something that they really need right now, and it would be good for them. And so I would get up and go out, and and therefore that not only just helps me not constantly listen to my emotions, but also helps add functionality to my relationships as well, in my life. um, it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a conditional relationship, that I will only meet you when I am in the mood. I will only meet you when I am not anxious. I will only meet you when I'm not physically exhausted. I will only meet you when I'm not feeling physical anxiety symptoms. I will only meet you if you cater to my compulsions. I will only meet you if we go to the place that does not make me anxious. I will only meet you if you do not talk to me about that thing that triggers me. Those were the conditions that I used to put on my friendships. I didn't always tell my friends that these were the conditions in my head, but those were the conditions I was putting in my head, because I knew that these things would happen that I did not like, so I just won't do them. Um, and that can take a toll on your relationships and your friendships, because you are just you I mean, people don't understand what you're doing or where you're even coming from. So it's really just important to, like I said, add that functionality or to your relationships as well. Obviously there are still times that I do say no, but I don't say it unnecessarily all the time or compulsively now. I mean, maybe it's like 60-40 or 50-50 now, that I mean, I would out of 10 invites, I would maybe go to 6 or 7, uh, and others I might still say no to. So it's a case of, I mean, I can still draw boundaries, but healthy boundaries, not rigid unnecessary boundaries that if if I'm not able to draw them, then I start to lash out or just like become this like vicious person. um, so I think, I mean, I don't know if I connected one thought to the other like in a good chronology or cohesively. um, but I think it gives you an overall picture of where I am now. um, I still get those wild streaks and those emotional urges in that sense, where I want to do something based on the emotion that I'm having in my head. And sometimes I do that. I mean, it's not that I don't completely, but it's definitely, I have way less moments of that. I have way less anxious energy now. Um, and also I have a much better sensibility of what's better timing to say or do something or not do something, which I didn't have before that much. So yeah, I mean, I think what it's really helped me with is get back my emotions. Because now I'm not analyzing them or compulsively like trying to live by them or compulsively venting or compulsively expressing them all the time. I see them, and I make choices based on my emotions. But then I do the times when I know that this can choice maybe at times or something. Um, what does it say? I don't know why it says it can't record audio. I hope it records the audio what I'm saying now. But yeah, so with rational thinking, I'm able to make better decisions. I'm able to make yeah, I'm able to take more calculated risks as well, even if it's like, let's say, buying expensive headphones. um Before that I would be completely paralyzed by the decision that I had to make. Oh my god, what do I buy? But now I can make more practical adult decisions that way as well. um Finding the middle ground between emotions and living a normal life of my choosing. Um, if I want to, let's say, become a musician tomorrow, which is kind of still a dream, but I don't know if it'll ever happen, but maybe one day. So, but it's not like I'm going to sell my everything that I have in my life and just go out on a bus tomorrow and say that I'm going to tour the country. No, I mean, I can still work on, let's say, and this is just a completely hypothetical example, but let's say that I start to, I don't know, record songs tomorrow or something like that. But I still have a job because I mean I'm not going to leave my job to. So, in the sense that I mean, I don't know if that example was even good, but what I'm trying to say is that there is that balance of doing things that I want to do and pursuing life and making choices that I want to make, but also keeping the practical, rational side in mind as well, and not completely being swayed by emotions. Because at least as an OCD sufferer, doesn't serve me and did not serve me at all, in any way, because that would mean risking my relationships. That would mean creating tension in my relationships. That would mean me being bitter inside. That would mean me saying no, not being social, not reading books, not watching movies, not listening to music, not enrolling in a master's program, not pursuing jobs. I mean, I wouldn't be doing any of those things at all. Um, if I was just living by my emotions, because for me that meant waiting for perfect emotions to do things, um, and listening to my body and avoiding things that triggered me. Because for me, going towards those triggers was the solution. So, yeah, this was a video on how acceptance and rational thinking has helped me. I hope you enjoyed this story of my journey from being a completely emotional person to a more realistically emotional person, I would say, in a way. I think that's a good way to put it. I have more reality checks in mind now. Um, so yeah, um, let me know what you think. I'm happy to do another video. I'm happy to answer your questions, and I will see you guys here and there on the OCD platforms. Bye bye.